Hi, my name's Lisa and today I'm explaining the current research around the principles and processes underpinning the acquisition of writing skills.
Hi, I'm Rebecca and I'm discussing how teachers' assessment and evaluation of children's writing influences further teaching.
Hi, I'm Kelly and I'm evaluating our findings and applying it to the classroom setting, while also introducing ways to creatively teach children to write.
Despite common belief, writers do so much more than merely write and spell words correctly. Writing should be thought of as a complex practice with a dynamic, strategic, and goal-oriented process. Today, literacy is considered a tool for communicating, innovating, and participating in the 21st century. To ensure that all young writers achieve at their full potential, a balanced approach to writing instruction is necessary. Such a program that addresses the complex practice of writing should consist of the 8 major principles that support the acquisition of writing skills. Understanding how students learn to write is of utmost importance. There are many learning theories that can be used within a classroom that are either teacher-centred or student-centred. The decision on which learning theory will be implemented in the classroom is dependent on the individual's beliefs. The 1960s marked the era when behaviourism lost its dominant status. Current research shows, however, that behaviourism has begun resurgence as of the great emphasis placed on curriculum standards and mandated high-stakes testing. Although constructivism, social linguistics, and cognitive information processing learning theories may possess different characteristics, they are all classified as student-centred approaches to learning. There is an additional final argument that opposes the idea of sole teacher-centred or sole student-centred learning theories. This argument enforces the idea that the only way to improve the quality of literacy instruction is to include multiple theoretical perspectives to cater for the diversity in classrooms. Languages around the world, with English being no exception, include a number of cueing systems. The 5 major cueing systems of the English language are the phonological, syntactic, semantic, pragmatic, and paralinguistic systems. Cueing systems are vital as communication would be impossible without them. The importance of each system varies, however, based on the diverse opinions of individuals. Typically, great importance is placed on the phonological system, as students apply phonics to spell words. This is argued, however, as phonics does teach children the sounds of the English language, but English is not a purely phonetical language. This additionally causes a problem for young readers, as over-reliance on the phonological system can lead to the negligence of the semantic system, as it may probe the notion that the purpose of reading is merely to pronounce words accurately. There are additional issues about the pronunciation of words in regard to the pragmatic system. The pragmatic system addresses the social aspects of language. Australia is home to millions of people with a vast range of cultures that may speak in a dialect. In Australia, the most common form of non-standard English is seen in Aboriginal Australians. It is known that children who have proficiency in standard English find it easier to read and write. This therefore led to the belief that an Aboriginal student should be taught to speak properly, which is why some educators highly value the use of the pragmatic system. Ultimately, children that speak in a dialect function most effectively when they are allowed to use both their local dialect and standard English. This leads some educators to emphasise the paralinguistic system. By merely looking at this small selection of arguments, it is evident that the importance of each system will vary between individuals and also how one system strongly relies on the other. The type of community created in the classroom will strongly influence the learning that takes place, which will be discussed in greater detail as the presentation proceeds. It is widely advised that teachers use a balanced approach when delivering any literacy instruction. The components of balanced instruction incorporates areas from all the learning theories, essentially bringing together the positives of teacher-centred and student-centred theories. Once again, however, although this is the desirable approach to literacy instruction, not all teachers will accept this as personal beliefs. Effective teachers will scaffold their students' learning. Scaffolding is the term used to describe the gradual decrease in support through the stages of modelled, shared, interactive, guided and independent activities. Different strategies are incorporated at each step to assist children with acquiring writing skills. Think Alouds are incorporated at the model stage to improve metacognitive awareness. The language experience approach is a particularly good example of shared writing, as it allows the students to assess their understanding and improves their confidence with tasks that cannot yet be completed independently. Group work at the interactive stage is particularly valuable as children are able to support each other and work at their own level, while acknowledging and accepting the levels of others. The guided writing stage is useful for the writing processes of revising and editing. The independent stage is of such importance as it builds fluency, motivation, and enables students to express themselves through use of ideas and experimental writing. The Australian Curriculum Assessment and Reporting Authority will have huge impact on the organisation of all literacy programs in the not-so-far future. The criteria given for English will be based on the 3 strands of language, literature, and literacy. As the Australian curriculum aims to encompass all of the essential aspects of literacy education, this principle truly is vital. While all the previously mentioned principles are of irreplaceable value to the acquisition of writing skills, assessment plays a particularly unique role, which will be further discussed as the presentation proceeds. As teachers, we are able to introduce students to the skills needed to become efficient writers inside of the classroom. Parents, however, are the people that support this development outside of the classroom. Research has proven many times that students score higher on standardised achievement tests and exhibit higher level thinking if their parents are involved with their education. Parents' viewpoints, however, reflect their culture and socio-economic status. From this research purely, the power parents have on children's acquisition of writing skills is obvious. As we have previously explored, children need to be engaged with authentic literacy activities. An authentic activity is a student selecting a topic and considering a purpose and form, as their writing now has meaning. At this stage of writing, children are able to use language to think and learn as a community of learners, organising ideas and solving problems. The many forms of text type will also be considered at this stage. The beauty of a draft is that it allows students to simply get all their ideas down without the added stress of mechanical or conventional correctness. Drafting is usually a messy process reflecting the waterfall of thoughts that flow through students' minds. In the 21st century, the use of computers for this stage are becoming increasingly common. Recent research shows that children will use both paper-based and digital technologies when writing. The use of digital technologies often motivates students to write as it is an enjoyable process. As students read through their rough drafts, they are using their metacognitive awareness to assess comprehension. As this process occurs, students are able to identify the areas that should be deleted, areas that could benefit from additional information, or problem areas in general. Group assessment is particularly effective if the writing levels of the group are diverse. Proficient readers can enhance other children's metalinguistic awareness through describing writing strategies. This will in turn allow students to use these writing skills and thought processes when revising their own work in light of the feedback received. Editing involves 3 stages: editing, proofreading, and conference with the teacher. Editing focuses on improving the structure, sentence patterns, and vocabulary, while proofreading focuses on identifying and correcting spelling, punctuation, and grammar errors. The stage of editing and proofreading emphasises that all cueing systems are of equal importance. When students feel their work is ready to be published, they present their work to the teacher. At that stage, progress is monitored, informing further instruction. Publishing allows students to present their text to an audience and allows them to see themselves as authors. This stage is a particularly worthy way of including parents in their child's education. Not only does this stage provide students with motivation, but also ties the whole writing process, along with all of the key principles, together. As we define the stages of the writing process, the presence of the previously mentioned principles become evident. What is now obvious is that alone principles will not provide students with the writing skills needed to operate successfully in the 21st century. Similarly, merely using the writing process and hope children will acquire the desired writing skills will not be sufficient either. Throughout the writing process, the principles that are clearly addressed are listed on the slide. What current research shows is that combining the use of principles and processes will permit students to acquire efficient writing skills.
Formerly, the main purpose of assessment in education was to apply grades and report to parents, schools and government institutions. Though as education has reformed, there is a stronger emphasis on assessment being used to determine students' levels, diagnose students' strengths and weaknesses, and monitor students, with the primary goal of gathering information that would lead to further instruction. Through assessment and explicit instruction, teachers develop students' knowledge of strategies and processes that they require in their writing to communicate. Through the use of frequent and varied assessments, teachers can gain an understanding of students' existing knowledge, identify students' misconceptions and naive interpretations of concepts and incomplete understandings. By using a variety of assessment tools, teachers can identify areas of instruction that need to be applied to the whole class, small groups or individually, and determine how the approach can be scaffolded. The most widely used tools of assessment in writing are rubrics, checklists, observations, anecdotal records, conferencing, and self and peer assessment. Rubrics and checklists provide students with the expectations and guides teachers on further instruction. When assessing students' writing ability, rubrics and checklists may assess areas such as ideas and content, organisation, voice, word choice, sentence fluency, and the use of conventions. Assessment with these guidelines can further instruction on vocabulary, punctuation, brainstorming and research skills, and grammar. Checklists may focus and elaborate on areas such as spelling, punctuation, sentence structure, paragraphs, overall structure, flow and cohesion, and the application of the writing process. These assessment tools influence further teaching in areas that are not meeting the required outcome. Observation of students' writing strategies and processes play an imperative role in assessment. Recording these observations in anecdotal records provides teachers with details about individual students' development and gathers information that will further instruction in specific areas. Teacher and peer conferencing assists students' understanding and identification of what is successful and what is not in their writing. Teachers can observe if students are using the correct strategies to convey their meaning to the reader and further instruction where misconceptions are evident or new knowledge is required. Through formative assessment, further teaching is identified that will provide students with the necessary skills to clearly communicate their purpose and to express themselves to a particular audience in their writing. It is through the assessment of students' writing that further instruction of spelling, grammar, and handwriting is influenced. Spelling is one of the essential devices that writers use to successfully communicate. Through the assessment of students' writing, further instruction on conventional spelling can be recognised. It may be identified in students' journal writing, spelling logs, word pads, or sample pieces of writing, though is not limited to these. Teachers may apply further instruction through mini-lessons on morphic knowledge and phonemic awareness. Through modelled instruction, it is essential that students see the connection that spelling has to successful communication in their writing. In the writing process, grammar structures the language to suit the content, the purpose, and the audience. Mini-lessons can focus on areas such as punctuation, sentence structure, and the relationship and overall construction of the text. The use of modelled, shared, and interactive reading and writing provides frequent opportunities for students to investigate and analyse text and develop proficiency with the conventions in their own writing. With 21st century learners interacting with the electronic world, children are requiring instruction on both handwriting skills and keyboard proficiency. Teachers primarily assess students' handwriting and keyboard skills through observations and samples of students' work. Handwriting may be assessed and linked to further instruction in areas such as letter formation and size, spacing, how writing is arranged, accuracy, use of margins, pencil grip, and posture. Studies have shown that students that are more proficient in handwriting and keyboarding tend to be more accomplished writers. The transformation of the use of assessment in education has provided teachers with a vital tool of balancing instruction on the basis of information that is gathered during formative assessment. The examination of students' assessments that are carried out on an ongoing basis will influence teachers' further instruction in connection to targeted outcomes.
An understanding of the principles and processes of writing and effective forms of assessment can be used by teachers to support explicit instruction, authentic application, and learning across the curriculum. The first example of a behaviourist approach can be seen in commercial reading programs. Commercial reading programs are applied through week-long lessons that include workbook activities, skill instruction, and reading strategies. It gives students the opportunity to work with textbooks aligned with the appropriate year level and delivers instruction sequentially, which makes it easier for both the teacher and student. An example of a constructivist approach in the classroom is reading logs. Reading logs require students to write a reflection on authentic literature such as stories, newspapers, and poems that they have read during school or at home. In their reading logs, students are encouraged to question elements in the text and discuss any uncertainties they may have come across when reading. Assessment takes place formally and informally throughout the entire program, although the approach is strongly student-centred and encompasses the idea of authentic practices in learning. Some theories suggest a balance of student-centred and teacher-centred approaches are more effective. Literature-focused units are an example of an approach that reflects the transition between teacher-centred and student-centred practices. The approach is based on the cognitive information processing theory because it teaches comprehension strategies and builds or withdraws support when needed. The aim of the approach is to teach reading using high-quality literature. However, it includes lessons on phonics, vocabulary, and comprehension. Although its purpose is to reinforce reading skills, the teacher must use activities such as word walls to develop an understanding of the cueing systems. Word walls feature important words found in books or other texts that students have read individually or as a class. Students can refer to these words while writing, which will help improve their fluency in both reading and writing. Literature circles can be used by teachers to provide authentic reading and literary analysis. The approach represents a sociolinguistic theory because students are working in small groups to read and discuss their books. The books range in complexity, however, students are more motivated to learn because the books are chosen by them. It is difficult for teachers to organise and control literature circles because the reading level of the books is so varied. Word sorts are useful for developing an understanding of phonics because it allows students to explore, compare and contrast word features. Word sorts consist of several words supplied by the teacher. It is up to the students to sort the words according to sound. In regards to the semantic system, a semantic feature analysis can be used to help students understand the characteristics of vocabulary words. Students complete the analysis while reading a text in order to see the relationship and relevance of the words to its context. These activities target specific writing skills, which is why explicit instruction is the more suitable approach. The classroom environment plays an important role in the acquisition of writing skills. Literary centres are an effective way to create a positive classroom environment. The centres are situated at designated points in the room and can either focus on phonics skills, vocabulary skills, or listening skills, depending on the needs of the students. An example of a literacy centre is Bag a Story, where students use objects in a bag to create a story. Another example of a centre is Messages, where children write notes to either classmates or the teacher and post them on a bulletin board. Although these activities are short and simple, it is a great way to engage students, foster a positive learning environment, and encourage the acquisition of writing skills. Ultimately, there are many strategies and approaches that can be used by teachers to develop a student's writing ability. These strategies and approaches are influenced by the 8 principles to becoming an effective teacher of language, literature, and literacy, and when used appropriately in a writing program, can prove extremely effective in the acquisition of writing skills. While the principles and processes influence the development of a writing program, the formative and summative assessments used throughout the program can improve elements in the individual activities or as a whole. However, true effectiveness is not determined by a grade or criteria, but rather through a student's understanding and ability to interpret explicit instruction and apply it to authentic learning experiences across the curriculum.